Is it on?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Megan Blonshine, and this is my audience.
Oh, I got like better control this time. And I'm still here.
A very famous writer once said, "A woman, especially if she has the misfortune of knowing anything, should conceal it as well as she can." My purpose is to show you the life Jane Austen had behind her romance writings. Jane Austen is one of the most famous female authors in history, but little do people know about her life behind her great works, including a large family, never marrying, and never gaining recognition during her life for all her hard work. Let's begin in the life Jane Austen lived at home. Jane was born on December 16, 1775, in Hampshire, England. She had 6 brothers, one of whom was sent away and never returned due to health problems at a young age. It was normal then for mothers to send their babies away to a village nurse for them to care for them until they were at a functional age to come back home, and Jane's mother did this for all her children. Her family was by no means rich and had some severe debt. Her father, being a clergyman, had to take some people into their home, so Jane, at the age of 7, and her sister were sent away to boarding school at Oxford. From the BBC documentary, The Real Austen, the narrator speaks about Jane's distance from home and states Jane seemed hard shell and a little distant in some of her later letters. When she returned home from school is actually when she received the best education in her life. Her mother and father let Jane read many, many books, which was usually not custom for a young girl at that age. Jane had become infatuated with reading novels and developed a quaint imagination. She began writing short stories at this time. Her sister Cassandra was her best friend. They had a bond so much similar to all the relationships between sisters in many of her books. Well, then Jane grew into a young lady, and soon it was time for her to do what women did back then, find a suitor and get married, and to a wealthy one, of course. However, Jane had opinions on love not many favored at that time. Jane never married in her lifetime for reasons of her own. Jane's mother was adamant the girls marry rich. Despite their money issues, the mother liked to show off all the connections she had and her single daughters. Jane was not very pleased about the idea of women only being good as a wife. In 1795, however, Jane meets a young Irishman named Tom Lefroy. He was an Irish law student and didn't have much money, not enough to afford a wife. However, she believed they were going to get married, as she told her sisters in many letters. The marriage could not happen due to lack of financial support on both sides, and he was sent back to London to finish his studies. She was heartbroken, and mad she let her emotions show. She begins now taking her writing very seriously, and many believe the romance is with Lefroy inspired many of her writings. In articles titled See Jane Elope, John Spence's Becoming Jane Austen biography is mentioned, and he defines Tom Lefroy as the love of Austen's life, and her relationship with him as the origin of her genius. She never ends up marrying, despite the only offer of marriage known in 1802 after moving to Bath with her family. He offered a great life for her and her family, many of the advantages with his connections to society and fortune, but was very plain to Jane, and he didn't speak very much. She did accept the offer, but then rejected it the next day, and seemed she would not marry someone who she did not love. Her sister, also following her shoes, never marries. With the many books Jane Austen was working on at that time, it was really hard to publish them. That was the real obstacle. Jane never received recognition for her novels while alive. By 21, she finished 2 books, known today as Sense and Sensibility and Pride and Prejudice. During her later life at her Chowton home with her mother and sister, she successfully ended up publishing 4 books. They were very well liked by the public, and this helped Jane feel more independent and successful after never marrying and becoming somewhat of a burden to her family. When she released all her books, she published them as anonymous, and then so forth by the author of Sense and Sensibility, and so on. It wasn't until after her death she was recognized as an author. Her brother Henry revealed to the public she was the author of all her books. According to an A&E Dial television network, Henry also helps publish the rest of her surviving works that went on to sell for a little over a year. In 1820, many of her copies of her books were disposed, and then out of print for 12 years, but once back, remained and continuously printed. And since then, Jane has inspired many other writers. J.K. Rowling, another very famous female author of the Harry Potter series, once stated, "Jane Austen is the pinnacle to which all other authors should aspire." In conclusion, Jane Austen lived a much harder life than her romantic novels and happy endings in Old English times let on. I hope some of you got an insight into the life of Jane Austen and the life that she lived and had. Like I stated in the beginning, Jane Austen once said, "A woman, especially if she has the misfortune of knowing anything, should conceal it as well as she can." And I think she did just that. I'm Megan Monshine. This is my audience.
I love Jane Austen.
I'm an Austen addict.
Her movies.
Persuasion.
Oh, that's my least favorite. Really?